Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central. If you want to watch us on television, that's on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget the podcast on the Newscasters.com and all the social media sites. We're pleased to be able to be with you in your household or in your car, wherever you want to be, anytime you want to be with us. We definitely appreciate that. We've got Murray Edwards with us right now. Murray's a good friend of mine. He's actually with the podcaster. He's with the, I'm going to tell you what, people are loving. They are absolutely loving this podcast. And it's because of you guys.
Well, we've come a long way in a year. And of course, you were with us from day one, and it was greatly appreciative. But we've got now about 60, 70 folks that have come on, all talking about all kinds of different things. We've got some what I'd call freelancers who don't have a podcast, but they'll occasionally do one, or they want to write an article. So I've set up a way that if they just want to do one podcast and maybe do another one a month later or 2 months later, they can come on and do it from that standpoint. So, and we've got some national journalists who are sending us articles every so often. Todd Bensman, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's huge in the immigration. He's writing articles for us. Liberty Nation is providing us with articles. So our approach to be able to provide a unbiased, unfiltered, fair voice or a platform for folks to be able to come on and talk about what they want to talk about and not worry about being shut down, by a media platform that says, no, you can't say that. To date, the hundreds of thousands of podcasts, I guess, or I won't say 100,000 podcasts, but of the hundreds and thousands of podcasts that we've put out, we've only had one that somebody tagged. And I guess after they listened to it for a second, they turned around and said, no, it's okay. So we try to phrase things and position it to where when they run the censor tag on it, they don't catch it and it's able to get out there. So, but we continue to grow.
What's amazing is when I have Victoria Lee Scott on. And if Victoria and I are together on a podcast, it could get censored. I mean, really easy.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
She is something else. I love her. I mean, this girl got it going on.
She's a fire plug. I will say that.
Oh, boy.
I'll let her take care of that kid. We've got like 6 or 7 people coming on board over the next week. And, so I keep telling them, you deal with Victoria on the front end side, I'll take care of the back end side, So we do some stuff on the back end that other platforms don't do on behalf of our podcasters or our contributors. And that's what's helping them. We had a young lady come on board just last week, and her first podcast in the first 24 hours had over 350 impressions across the countryside. That's more than she ever has gotten on the other platforms. That she, say, I'm happy if I get 5 or 10. And say, well, you've already had 350 in 24 hours. So we try to drive, your content, everybody's content, so we get an opportunity to listen to folks, which is a good thing.
Well, we'll be sending more after we get completed moving.
I know you will.
And let me tell you something. We're moving into a great area. Abbeville, South Carolina. It's just south of Anderson, South Carolina, and I'm absolutely loving it. So I just put something out there on a Facebook, one of their pages of Abbeville, South Carolina. I got so much response. These people, I mean, I'm in the right town. I'm just telling you that. As a matter of fact, the woman we bought the house from, her husband used to be sheriff in Abbeville, and they were Democrats at the time now. But Republicans now. And so we were at the attorney's office, and she looked straight at me and she said, "Are you a Democrat or Republican?" I said, "Neither one, I'm conservative." And she said, "I was going to say, if you're a Democrat, I'm going to sell you my house." I said, "I thought you were a Democrat." I heard where your husband, he passed away.
Too funny.
I said, "I heard your husband was a Democrat." She said, "Used to be one."
Yeah, there's a lot of those used to be ones, cropping up everywhere. I saw a report the other day that the voting block, I guess you want to say, is now +2 Republican. It's always been +3 Democrat, +4 Democrat. It's now +2 Republican across the entire country, which ought to be making the screamers and the yellers and the whatever you want to call them lose their ever-loving mind.
What is wrong with these people? I mean, people are out there literally screaming. Now, I didn't like Joe Biden, okay? I prayed for the dude every day because I didn't want to lose my business. Sure. Now, I was afraid that's what was. I wanted him to do a good job. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong about him. I did, but I wasn't wrong. I was absolutely right about him. But then I wasn't screaming, going out in the streets, carrying on, acting like a child. Why are people doing this?
I don't understand. I mean, I'm with you. You want the gentleman or whoever is in the White House, you want them to be successful, because if they are successful, the country will be successful. And you may not necessarily agree with Mr. Trump, but for the country's sake, you want him to be successful at what he is attempting to do. They don't want it. They just don't want it, Donna. The bureaucratic state, and I know you and I have talked about it in the past, that is the fourth leg of the government. And they reign almost ultimate control on everything that happens to everybody, So for them to be getting reined in, they've got to be in an absolute panic mode, knowing that, 450 offices. Now, maybe the folks may not understand just how big it is. We didn't start off with about 5 when the Constitution was founded. We had 5 departments. We now have 450 departments that have 2.3 million employees, largest employer in the country. And they feel like they just have ultimate power. The one thing I love to hear him say, Donna, especially about Elon Musk and some of these other folks, he wasn't elected.
I got an argument on that.
We didn't elect Mr. Musk. And I said, and I got into a little discussion with somebody the other day, and I said, well, you also didn't elect Fauci. You also didn't elect, some of these other people who were making all these rules and regulations.
How about Hunter Biden? Who actually elected Hunter Biden? He had too much control. So
don't give me this nonsense that he wasn't elected. The president under this Article 2 has ultimate control, ultimate power, and he or she can appoint anybody that they feel fit, and they work on behalf of the president. Just like everybody in these bureaucratic states work on behalf or the pleasure of the president. And you've got all these unions and whatnot trying to say, well, he can't fire people. Yeah, he can. He has the authority to do so. And it's no different. You've run a business. I've run a business. You do an audit. You find out what's working, what's not working. Or I've worked with people who have done the same thing. I've been part of large audits of large corporations. You take a look at something. If it is working, it works. It's fine. You keep it in place. If it ain't working, you get rid of it. And unfortunately, people may lose their job. And that's a shame. But for the press, I know you've seen it. I've seen it. I imagine everybody that watches the show, the media has gone absolutely nuts over all these public sector people who have lost their jobs. I didn't see them yell and scream and fuss and riot. I won't say riot, but protest in front of buildings when 10,000 people got laid off and the pipeline got closed, or when Big Lots shuts down 50 some odd stores. Nobody in the press yells and screams about that, but that one individual, in some agency someplace loses his or her job, they've got to bring it up all over the news and say, well, he's just tearing the country apart. No, he's pretty much doing exactly what he said he was going to do on the campaign trail. If you listen to him, I haven't seen him deviate from anything so far that he promised he was going to try to do while he was on the campaign.
Well, I mean, a business owner will make decisions like you said earlier. Okay, so we had 8 Nextel stores in Alabama, and we had this for quite a while, and that was a lot of work. I'd not do that now, but anyway, it worked back in the day. And so we had opted for a multi-line phone system in the home office. And so we were talking about that, and we went on ahead and got it. Well, after about 2 years, we expanded and did something else more in-house with each store. So I told Phil, I said, I don't see the point in us having this multi-line phone service. It's costing too much money because we're paying for all these extra lines. We don't need them now because we're using our cell phones and the beep beeps, on the next one. We were using that to correspond with all of our stores instead of the other way. Well, it saved us thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So we cut that out. And that system cost a lot of money, but it saved us a lot of money to get rid of it because we didn't need it anymore. That's like using 8-track tapes now when you've got your cell phone does everything. I mean, why would you do that and have to tote around a bunch of 8-track tapes?
You got a little mini supercomputer in the palm of your hand nowadays.
Yeah. So, you don't need all that garbage.
It's amazing. So
let's talk about some of the people that Trump has put in place. And I'd like to talk about Kennedy first. And the reason I want to do this, apparently my entire life since high school, I've been against the government. Okay. So my grandmother, I graduated from high school back in 1977. My grandmother took the swine flu shot. We're talking about a very active woman, was around. She could run circles around all of her teenage grandkids. Okay. She never tired out. So she gets the swine flu shot, starts acting weird. Like my aunt called and said, something's wrong with mother. She's acting like a drunk woman. She was staggering all over the mall. They went to the mall and she said, she's not acting like mother. She's acting really, really weird. Right before she's going to take her to the doctor, she has a stroke and she dies. We all know, the whole family, it was that swine flu shot. And then all of a sudden, other elderly people were dying from taking this swine flu shot.
Sure.
Do you think all these things are just about to be exposed now with Kennedy in place?
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. And I think that's what's got a lot of the people at HHS scared. Because when you find out where some of the money that had been allocated to NIH and some of the things that NIH was doing, some of the programs that they have rolled out, we can only hope so, because I think the American people are just tired of being lied to, plain and simple, lied to. And as they dig into it deeper, the more corruption is going to show up. And some of these, I listened to some of the hearings when Fauci was doing it, some of the other people were doing it during the COVID era. And you could look at him and listen to the way he was saying things, that he's not being truthful with his statements. Now, the key thing now is, being that he's been given a preemptive pardon, he's not protected anymore. So, and none of them are protected anymore. So I would suspect that I don't know whether the House is going to do it first or the Senate's going to do it first, but I think they're probably going to bring in some of these people from HHS that have been given these preemptive pardons and going to have to ask good questions. They can't hide behind the Fifth Amendment anymore. They have to come out and say it, because a preemptive pardon basically suggests that you're guilty of something. You wouldn't accept the pardon.
Otherwise, I'd be, hey, I've done nothing.
Yeah. So they're no longer protected by the Fifth, so they can't claim it. So if they lie, then they put themselves back in jeopardy again. So I can only hope, and I'm sure most American people out there that really want to know what's going on, they're going to dig into it. They're going to find out, some of these medications that they're putting out. I saw a medication the other day on TV, and I looked up the side effects to it. Oh, my dear God, gee whiz. It took them longer to talk about the side effects than did what good it does. There's one of these you Ozempic and all these folks who have come out now with a pen to lower your diabetes and lose weight. This was an alternative to Ozempic. I never heard of it before. And the side effects were 2 pages long. When you pull it up to take a look at it, here's what it's here to help. But by the way, here's almost 2 pages of potential side effects on it.
However, I've always found this interesting. First of all, I can detect when I'm being sold something, and the whole COVID thing, it was like we were being sold. Well, my brother got hooked up into it and shamed my husband and me like crazy for not getting the jab. And we didn't get it. We never got it. Never got a jab.
Never got it myself.
But he.
Uh-oh. Lost Donna.
I find it interesting that when you start talking about the jab, we're still having internet issues.
Yeah,
can you hear me, Mary?
Oh, I can hear you now. You froze there for about 25 or 30 seconds.
We both froze. We were both froze in time. But that's okay. The truth will stand. The truth will stand.
Yeah, it's, there's several things I hope Mr. Kennedy does. First off, I hope he gets drug companies to stop advertising on TV. I think that starts a lot of some of the nonsense. Oh, that's such a wonderful pill. That's such a wonderful drug. And I hope he stops that. And he's got to dig into the welfare of the kids with the kind of foods that are being given, the processed foods that you go to the grocery store and buy, all the junk that's in them. I mean, you've seen the reports. I've seen the reports. The number of children now with autism is up just where it used to be, 1 in every 10,000 children. It's now like 1 in every 35 or 40, and it's just crazy out there. You're right. Those are the exact words. So I hope he's going to get in there and just absolutely clean house. I'm sure there's, as I say, there's some wonderful people who work for the government. There are, but there's a lot of not so wonderful people. And the other day there was a couple of these protests around the country where the bureaucratic folks are out yelling and screaming, we don't want to lose our job. I'm sitting there going, so on your day off during clock time, you're out there yelling and screaming, saying, don't fire me, but you're not working. Or what they say, 6% of the federal government now actually goes into an office. So I think we froze again. We did.
Speak the truth and we start losing the internet.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm sitting there going, well, obviously we must be talking about something somebody doesn't want everybody else to hear.
This has not been happening. I've been recording all day and this hasn't been happening all day.
Well, like I said, what's the old adage? Everybody's watching, everybody knows. If you've been on your phone, they know what you're talking about. If you're on social media, everybody knows what you're talking about. And I'm not talking about just your friends. I'm talking about the ABC industries, especially if you put anything out there that's in the least little bit controversial.
Oh yeah, that's very upsetting to people.
Oh yeah, I like it when I get these friend requests from someone that goes, "Oh, I think your post is fantastic. I think we should meet, and I'll get 5 or 6 of those in a day from 5 or 6 different people, but the verbiage is basically the same. So you sit there and go, okay, some kind of bot's trying to log on to you, try to get into your account and do some different things. So,
something you just brought up something very interesting here, because when you host a talk show, you're going to get a lot of people who just follow you. Okay, I've been watching that list really close the past few months. And what I'm doing is if I see something and it's, first of all, it's got a weird name to it, or, I'm already a friend with somebody and they're putting on there that they're following me, it's a bot. And another thing that we need to watch out for, I think, is you may be friends with someone and this bot is looking into all of your friends as well, trying to follow all of them just to see what kind of person they are. So what I do, this is what I do. Okay, I can look and I see recently people who started following me, and I look at their account. If I look at it, I have no friends. We're not sharing friends. We don't have like at least 5 friends who are the same. I'm taking them off, and I'm going to unfollow them or block them. And then another thing I'm seeing too is it's a bunch of, just like some different country, like it could be Japanese or whatever like that. But they're pretending to be somebody just right down the road from Birmingham. Like that. That's a bot. And then people complain all the time about some of the social media sites, but now they all do it.
Oh yeah,
you would never be on social media at all if.
The funny thing is, of course, I'm on all the platforms talking about all kind of different things, and I'll get a request, and it'll be the same Oriental woman.
Yeah.
You get 5 requests from 5 different people, and you click on the little picture. Like I do the same thing. Do they have any followers or whatnot? And it's the same image of the same woman, cute as she can be, but it's the same woman in 4 or 5 different facial expressions, that type of situation. So, take a close look, folks, when people are wanting to follow you on Facebook or LinkedIn, or LinkedIn's not too bad, probably not as bad as some of the other ones, but X and Gab and Truth Social and whatnot, they're full of bots, and they want to try to get information on you so they can either, try to make you look bad or whatnot. So be careful. There's another scam going around, especially for folks on Facebook. If you've got a page, there's now a group out there that will send you a message that basically says you're violating trademark rules.
Yeah.
Or copyright rules.
Yeah. Music on whatever.
Yeah. So click on this link and, provide the necessary information, because we know it would be terrible for you not to have your page on our network. Yeah, that's a scam, folks. They're trying to get information. They'll take over your page. I know someone it happened to. They take over your page and just try to embarrass the what out of you. So don't fall for it. Delete it and be done with it.
Yeah, be done. And again, if you have no mutual friends, let it go. Block them like ASAP. I know one of my friends, or several of my friends, one time started sending me emails. You better look at your page. And I hadn't looked at it because I'd been taping all day. Somebody put a bunch of nude stuff on there on my page. Made me so mad. And then I looked, and you can look at their profile, and you can tell they're fake. You know who's doing it, but you can block them. I mean, it'll take a process, because it's like almost a spider web where a whole bunch of people got together and they're doing this to you. But you can do it. You can get rid of all that nonsense.
Yes,
what I get a lot of is even on email, and on email where and I'll get like 5 at a time of PayPal saying, I get a bunch of that nonsense. So this is what I beg everybody to do. I talk about it almost every show. You need to do this. If it's something, it looks like it's from your bank, and they tell you to click on a link, or it's PayPal or anything like that, don't click the link. The best thing to do is get the official number, and don't go with the telephone number they give you either. That's another setup for you to get everything you want. So the best thing to do is, if you bank with, say, Bank of America, and you get that, call Bank of America, like their toll-free number. Call them directly. Don't click on links. So first of all, they're not going to send you anything like that.
Well, the funny thing is you can click on who it's from.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may say Bank of America card. It may say whoever it is. But if you take a look and you click on who it's from some god awful, long drawn out name and all this kind of stuff. I get one every month from Spectrum saying that my payment did not go through. Well, I'm like everybody else, I pay everything online. So I know for a fact, oh, your payment was denied. No, it wasn't. And they can make it look so cotton picking official. I mean, if you didn't know that you weren't getting this from Bank of America or whoever it might be, they've come a long way than what they used to be like 3 or 4 years ago. You could tell instantaneously 2 or 3 years ago that this is fake. They've gotten so good at it now with the logos and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure they're using artificial intelligence to do the verbiage and whatnot. But it's really hard to tell nowadays, and it's probably going to only get worse. That's a sad thing. It's only going to get worse with more people that are using AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And also, if you'll just check the domain of the email address sender, it wouldn't be the official wellsfargo.com. I mean, it'll be something at gmail.com or something like that. They're not going to use a Gmail email address to send you an official message if they were to. The best thing to do is scrap it, delete it immediately, call them and say, look, I got this email. Is it legit? Is it from you? That's the best thing to do.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, I've been in this business for a long time. Phil and I have been in the technical world for a very long time. And I'm going to tell you what, just when you think, well, we've got it leaked, it's taken care of, another one comes through. I mean, it's constant.
I started off in the tech space. I've got a double E, and I started working for an old company called Univac back in the day. And of course, Univac changed to Sperry. And I pick on my grandkids now because I used to have top secret crypto. And so I used to be able to go into the Maxwell Air Force Base crypto room because they had a Sperry computer system. That room was huge. It had a grand total of 64K of memory in it. But it had tape drives and card decks and all this kind of stuff. And like I said, I pick on folks and I said, you don't understand. Used to be top secret crypto messages used to come into Maxwell Air Force Base on a system that didn't have but 64K of memory in it. And no, that's not happening. And it was as big as a house. The room was as big as a house. You've got a supercomputer basically in the palm of your hand. And it has come a long way. I mean, my first laptop weighed 55 pounds.
Oh, they were heavy back in the day.
It was a compact made the first what you want to call laptop or portable or whatever it was. And I think that thing weighed like 55 pounds. It had a screen that was about 5 by 5, little video, teeny weeny little thing, and green. You couldn't read it half the time. And so we, like I said, from a technology standpoint, in all my years, we've come such a long way. And it's just ramping up so quickly now that there's no telling what it's going to be like in another 3, 4, 5 years.
There's no telling. But back in the day, I remember we started an internet service. Phil and I did. It was a dial-up. We started out with 14 4K baud modems. We had a room full of but that's before your graphics and stuff started taking over.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you what, the download speed was super fast. And then it started coming up, with pictures and stuff like that. That's why we had to keep changing the baud. I remember when we went from 14.4 to 56K, we thought we were all that in a bag of chips because we had the fastest in town. I mean, it was super fast. And now a kid would laugh at you if you had a 56K baud.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about my first portable. My first desktop was really powerful, Donna. Really powerful. Had 640K memory, a 10 megabyte hard drive. And I thought I was, and a floppy disk, folks.
No kidding.
Floppy disk on it and a keyboard that weighed like 5 pounds. Yeah. And you sit there and go, man, I've made it to the top now.
I've arrived.
Yeah, a monitor that probably weighed 50 pounds, It's like I said, in 30 years, let's see, I got out of the, I've been out of the tech space now, I guess, from a standpoint of actually working in it now for about 10 years. But it's just truly amazing how it's changed.
Yeah, for the worse, because it's not near as secure as it used to be.
Yeah.
No,
and that gets back to, we were talking about, some of the stuff going on with the bureaucracy, the comments that, we're letting 17 and 18-year-old kids take a look at what's going on, all this kind of stuff. And you sit there, and I responded to somebody the other day and said, do you not realize that everybody anywhere who wants to know anything about you can find it? Don't think that some 18 or 19-year-old that's sitting behind a desk is going to want your information, because the bureaucratic state has already shown that they don't care about your stuff, because they've got bureaucrats who are looking at your data every cotton picking day of the week, and can, just like when they shared the guy from the IRS that leaked out Trump's tax reports back, when he first ran. You sit there and go, so it's terrible. There is no secrets anymore. If there are very few.
And it's a huge organization too, with the fraudsters who are out there. I mean, this is like a money-making machine. I mean, it really is, where they're getting people's information. And I've told my mother like 10,000 times, be careful who you select, who comes in. Not everybody's going to be your friend on Facebook. There's so many fakes.
Sure.
And so, I mean, I have to get on her all the time, and I'll say, Mother, that's a fake. Can you? And one way you can find out a fake account and where they're really from. Are they really from the United States? They say they are. They say they're from just right down the road from you. If you'll look at their likes, and if it has a bunch of stuff from Africa or stuff like that, I mean, you can bet they're not from here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many things that we just need to be wise about.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I agree.
Murray,
well, I mean, what I make one statement before I know we got to take a break, but with all the folks saying that there's this young group of kids, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, they failed to realize that the majority of the young men who signed and wrote the Declaration and the Constitution, there wasn't but 3 of them that were over 25 years old. The oldest one was Ben Franklin. I think he was like 80. There was a bunch of them that were 17, 18, 19, 20 years old that wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. So to sit there and begrudge a bunch of young men who are geniuses, and if they're tying to Mr. Musk, they are not stupid people. In no way. So that just came to mind. I wanted to bring that up real quick.
I totally agree. And there are some young folks that I saw at Trump rallies that, and it's nothing like you said, it's just old white men who go to these rallies. That's all you hear from some of these people on the left. No. I saw tons of young people out there, and there was no fighting. There was no begrudging. There was nobody crying. There was none of this nonsense going on. They weren't screaming, just having a good time.
Yeah.
We were all laughing, doing bumps and all this kind of stuff with each other. People I didn't even know.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just a good thing. It was a good place. Let's go into a commercial break, and we'll be right back in just a minute. Everybody hang in there. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time. That's 2 Eastern Time, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You know what? You can find us on television syndicated, found on Abundant TV, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on the newscasters.com. While Murray Edwards is with me right now, a good friend of mine. Murray, podcasters, the newscasters are doing great. What's the secret?
Free speech.
I feel free.
Yeah, to allow folks to, as long as they don't get ugly and nasty, and as long as they don't share stuff.
I'm nice.
Yes, ma'am. You can come on and talk about whatever you want to talk about. We have people talking politics. I do 2 shows on politics. One about the state of Alabama and another one about the national picture, as you call it. But we've got radio disc jockeys who are coming in doing their shows from all over the country, talking about what's going on in their little part of the world. We've got freelance journalists who are doing articles for us, talking about things that it's fine on their website, but they can't get it out any further. It doesn't go any further than their website. So they give it to us and we push it out for them. So we've got some people doing some wonderful inspiration shows. Alveda King is on the platform now with her show called The Vision, and so it's just grown, I guess, more rapidly than we had hoped it would, and it's being accepted. I know we're working on. I think we had 45 or 50 people who contacted us over the last 2 weeks that are interested in, having what we call a studio for their, and one thing that we do is you can either do audio, you can do video, or you can write an article. So if you just want to do an opinion piece, you can have a studio and you can write your opinion pieces. If you do audio, you can do audio. Like yourself, you do video, so you can do video. So we tried to make it is simple for people to do what they want to do. Now, we have hiccups like everybody else does, but so far it's worked very nicely. And like I said, we've got some wonderful contributors from all over the countryside who are coming on board, trying to get what they talk about, because what happens locally here in, say, in the state of Alabama could be going on in another state, and somebody could listen to it and say, well, wait a minute, that's happening here. So we've got people of all senses. We've got professional journalists. We've got freelancers. We've got what I call citizen journalists. And, sometimes they want to do anything, but they feed us the information and we do everything we can to try to get it out. So I think that's what's been our success on the front end side. We just hope we can continue to grow it. And, we'll never be the biggest, but the content that we'll provide out there will be, I think, very valuable for people who are trying to find the truth on something, because everybody that is on the platform is telling the truth. I mean, they're just laying it out there. Here's what's happening here. But some do it with a wonderful sense of humor. Will Anderson, I know you know Will. Will show's great. He does 2 or 3 a week, and it's some of the funniest political stuff you'd ever want to listen to. But he gets to the point when he does his shows, and several other people across the countryside are the same way. So we're happy. We continue to grow. We just hope we're hitting the right nerve with folks. I think with Mr. Trump coming in and is going to stop some of the things that has been going on. I think it's just going to expand even further.
Oh, I think so too. Something that you just made me think of something. Someone was talking with Mr. Caffey of Chick-fil-A years and years ago. And they said, Mr. Caffey, you're number 3. You could be number 1 if you were open on Sunday. And Mr. Caffey said, being number 3 is not bad. So, and then that way you had a day off, not working on Sunday.
There you go. Everybody deserves a day off. And Hobby Lobby's the same way. Hobby Lobby probably could be much bigger than they are, but they're the same way as Chick-fil-A. They're closed on Sunday.
I think they're as big as Michael's is. I think so. But something about the Newscaster studio too that that I've recognized is that there's some kind of a flow, and I think it has to do with the management. I think it's you and Victoria, Mr. Day. So you guys are like on the same wavelength, and we all know that, and it just makes it a lot easier for us.
I will say, to get the three of us, you're absolutely right. We're pretty much all on the same page. I don't think there's anything that we have discussed that all three of us have decided, yep, that's a good move, and so far, we believe that we've made the right moves. Now each person is responsible for different things. Like I said, Victoria is handling what I call the front end stuff. I handle the back end. The back end is getting the studio set up, making sure that everything is flowing for the contributor, that he or she's not having an issue with their studio. And I take care of all the social media stuff. Victoria takes care of that, and Clint's just there. He's the man. He's just there. But it's a good collaboration between the three of us, and so far it's led to some pretty good stuff.
And that's what makes it a success. Let's talk a little bit about Alabama politics.
Okay.
And I know you and I, because it's getting closer, a little bit closer to the governor's race.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose names are in the hat right now that you know of?
Well, Ainsworth's going to be for sure. There's some question marks as far as governor is concerned. Rick Pate, I think, is still trying to decide whether he's going to run. I think Lou, the former owner of the Books and Millions, I think he's probably contemplating about it. The young lady who was an ambassador for Trump, I think she's hoping to be get another ambassadorship role. So I'd be somewhat surprised. Lieutenant governor will be Wes Allen's just announced. Wes is a good guy. Dean Noble is announced. I was actually at Dean's when he announced his role for lieutenant governor. There's rumors, and you know him as well as I do, Mr. Merrill. There's talks that Mr. Merrill may run for lieutenant governor. So we'll just have to wait and see. And there's a few more names, but the names of major recognition will be Wes Allen, Dean Odle, John Merrill if he decides to run. So that's going to open up Secretary of State. So I don't know who's going to run for that. I really thought that Sorrell, he's auditor.
I think would.
And I figured that, in all sincerity, that Andrew would step up and run for lieutenant governor because he's got ambitions like no one I've ever seen. So he may step up and try to run for Secretary of State. No idea for Agriculture Commissioner, which currently is held by Rick Pate. Rick's turned out. Ainsworth is turned out for lieutenant governor. We'll have to see. But I don't know. There's been talk that Tommy Tuberville is going to run for governor. And the last time I had an opportunity to talk to him, he basically said no. But then about 2 weeks later, he came out and said, well, you never know what you don't know. So, Mr. Tuberville could be throwing his name in the hat. But the question would be, is he's gotten himself tied pretty closely to Trump on some committees and whatnot. And I would be somewhat surprised if he does. Now, if he does run for governor, I think he'll give Ainsworth a run for his money. Because
do you think he's the only one who could?
Honestly, I think from a namesake, from name recognition, Rick Pate, and I know Rick and I went to high school together. Rick's done a wonderful job as Commissioner of Agriculture, tremendous job. And people know who he is around the state. Some of these other names that they may be floating out there, aren't as well known, and they're going to have to spend a heck of a lot more time and a heck of a lot more money trying to get their name out there. Tuberville's got the name recognition. Mm-hmm. Personally, if Tommy runs, I think he's probably the only one that can beat Ainsworth. I think Ainsworth this is just my own personal opinion. I could be totally surprised, but I think Ainsworth is a shoo-in. He's bid his time for, years and years and years. He's been building his machine in the background for the last 4.5, 5 years. It may happen before then, because Miss Ivy, bless her heart, she's not in the best of health. So there's still 2 years left in her term. He could conceivably, be the governor before the election cycle begins. I mean, I don't want wish any ill will on anyone, but Miss Ivy's not been in the best of health, and hopefully she'll make it through the next 2 years. But you just don't ever know.
Well, if he is, and let's say Ainsworth is the acting governor, is that pretty much a shoe-in for him, unless he does something drastically stupid?
Yeah, I would think it would be. And what they can conceivably do, Don, is give him 10 years. Because if someone, and it's like that's what happened with Ivy. She came in during the last year and a half or so of the term. That way, she finished that up. How she ran for 2 more terms, so conceivably, if there's less than 2 years left in the existing, and that's the way any of them, there's less than 2 years left in their particular term, then whoever steps up could finish that up, and then they could run 2 more times. But I think Ainsworth had planned on running last time, because Ivy had been somewhat slow in making her announcement. And then when he had an event out and up where he lives, she came to the event and she announced that she was going to run for governor. And then he in turn announced basically at the same time, I'm running for lieutenant governor. So he's been building what I call his machine now for at least good 4.5, 5 years. So he's got his supporters, he's got the money he needs, he's got the backings he needs, he's got the lobbyists that he would probably need to have support him to get in there. Now, what he'll do with the first term is an entirely different situation. But honestly, I think he's going to be very tough to beat.
I would love to see John Merrill run. I don't know that it's his time yet, but
John's going to run for, you and I both know John's going to run for something. Don't know exactly what it's going to be. I mean, there's not an event that I go to that John's not there, smiling and shaking hands and whatnot. So he has to be setting himself up, I would think, for something. Personally, since he's out of the Tuscaloosa area, I would love him see him go after Terry Sorrell, Sewell, go after District 7. But she's got a bank of money for herself, and that's something that the Republican Party here in Alabama is going to really have to figure out what they're going to do. Is how they're going to address District 7 and District 2, because now they're both held by Democrats, and both of them have voted against legislation up in Washington that they probably shouldn't have voted against, but they did. But we'll just have to see hopefully somebody with some name recognition, somebody who's got some money, even though Caroline did a pretty decent job, she was still new to the wonderful world of politics when she ran against figures. So whether she'll, take a look at it, I don't know. Now her name is mentioned for Attorney General, so she may run for Attorney General. There was talk that Senator Orr was going to run for Attorney General, but he said, no, I'm not going to do it. So there'll be names floating around. I would say the May-June timeframe is when most people you'll start hearing, because that's when they can announce and get everything set up for their campaigns and whatnot. So we'll just have to see. It's going to be a fun time down in Montgomery for the next, let's see, they're in day 9. So they got 29 more legislative days, 21 more legislative days. And so it should be fun down in the lovely city of Montgomery for the next couple of months.
What do you think the goal of Nathaniel Ledbetter is? I mean, what's he shooting for?
I don't really know. There was some really important legislation last year that he stopped. And there's some important legislation going on right now. I don't know if anybody's heard the term of PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, and how their organizations are affecting, independent pharmacies, little hometown pharmacies, the way that they reimburse. Well, there's two bills that are in the House. They're on committee actually on Wednesday of this week. And, you got a large group of people who are supporting Senator Stutz on SB 99. And you got a large group of people who are supporting Jones on SB 93. There are some differences, but the pharmaceutical group has basically thrown their support behind 99. So we'll just have to see. But, gambling's coming back into play. Apparently, probably either right before the spring break or right after spring break, the PCI group is going to probably bring, gambling back into it. Do I think he has higher aspirations? Possibly. He's not prepared right now. This is just my own honest opinion. He's still got to get the House together. He's still got to be a good leader of the House. There's been some really not so good things occurred over the last 2 years. He's got this year and next year. So there's not been, again, this is just my opinion, a very cohesive legislative session so far with Mr. Ledbetter as the Speaker of the House. Now, I'm sure he will deny that, but I would think a lot of people would probably feel that way. They may not be willing to come out and say it. I don't care.
Well, what does he need to change? Because it just feels like you want it to be, you'll never be united as long as you have Democrats and Republicans. But now, the one thing you can say about Bill Clinton, he did try to reach across the aisle.
That he did.
And it was probably just to reach at their wives. But anyway, he did try to reach across the aisle. And I remember him saying, boys, we're in this together. I remember seeing that. Yeah. It takes a little bit of that to reach across the aisle,
Well, the problem we have here in Alabama, we have a supermajority at all levels. We have a supermajority at the executive level, all Republicans. We have a supermajority in the House. Republicans are far outweigh the Democrats. Same thing in the Senate. Republicans far outweigh the Democrats. They really, in all sincerity, it's a bad thing to say, but they really don't need the Democrats for anything. They really don't. They can pass in the House anything they want to pass, and they can shut down anything they want to shut down. And if the leadership decides that this is we're not going to have it, it's put up by a Democratic bill. Figures put a bill in, talking about quick clicks or something. I can't remember exactly what she was putting the bill in, but it got shut down pretty quick. And she's got 2 or 3 other Second Amendment bills in. They're not going to go anywhere. Now, there's some good bills on the Republican side that they'll all hit the floor. I think right now there's 540 some odd bills. Now that's way down because typically over 1,200 bills are submitted, and they pass maybe 350 or 360. I think that's what they did last year. But I will say Ledbetter did put a kibosh on that, and he said, folks, we're not going to have 1,200 bills to take a look at because we can't get them all through committee. So that was a positive thing, from that standpoint. And he's made some changes in the rules, or I would say not him alone, but the legislative body has made some changes on how some of the bills get through. So they've tried to streamline the process, but it's still been, again, just my own honest opinion in talking with folks I know down there, it's not really been a cohesive, to me, this hasn't been really cohesive. And if he gets irritated at someone wanting to get a piece of legislation passed, it ain't going nowhere. He could have all the support in the world, but he'll throw it in his basket, and that's where it will sit. And that's what happened last year. There was a bill that was supposed to address this PBM issue. It got through the committee pretty handily. Never got out of his basket because some people.
So why? Why would that happen?
It just does. And unfortunately, in some of these bills like this one, the lobbyists are deeply involved because they want things to say this. The people that they're lobbying for, the insurance companies, to PBMs and whatnot, they've got a boatload of money. And I'll just use the pharmacy thing as a prime example. The pharmacy organization does not, because it's homegrown folks. It's mom and pop pharmacies. They don't have a whole lot of money. I mean, yes, there are some large pharmacies out there, but they can't compete against the lobbyists.
Sure.
And when you get an organization like Blue Cross Blue Shield, who has boatloads of money, they can go get a handful of lobbyists and say, go shut this thing down. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, some of those dollars flow to elected officials, either for campaign funds and stuff like that. So, well, if you want X amount of dollars for your next campaign, you had best vote no, or you had best vote yes for this bill. And that's how it all transpires. There's too much money in local government, and you wish it could change, but there's no transparency law, anymore. So it hurts, and you would like to think that, well, if a person's going to run for an office, the money should come from the constituents of that particular district, period, in a discussion. You shouldn't come from Alabama Power or Blue Cross Blue Shield or Bell South or whoever it might be. Mm-hmm. So if you got X amount of people in your district, then that's where you get your money from, $5 or $10, $15 at a time, and run your campaign from there. But unfortunately, that's not what has happened now. I guess there's one good thing. Alabama's now the fourth most corrupt state government in the country.
Well, you just brought another question in.
We used to be third, but we have dropped down to fourth. I think somebody was whoopee. So I don't think people really understand it's just how badly sometimes. And again, I want to correct myself. There are some wonderful men and women who are working down in Montgomery. There really are. But you've got some of these career guys and gals who've been there for quite a while. They've got some money in the background that is keeping them to be in the forefront. So
I would say so.
Yes, ma'am.
So now, because you said that, I got to ask another. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to.
Sure.
But I'm interested. So how many people who are on the Republican ticket are really rhinos? You don't have to list names. But how many people in Alabama politics percentage are
here's how I think you could probably break it down, Donna, and you won't have to mention any names. Most of the representatives and senators who represent rural districts are fairly conservative. Mm-hmm. When you get into the purple cities, Montgomery's blue now, but Birmingham, Huntsville, Madison County, Mobile County, and you've got a representative or a senator who is representing a purple type district, that's where you have to be careful, because what they're doing is putting their finger in the wind, and they're going, who am I going to irritate the least on a piece of legislation? Am I going to irritate the people from the blue side of the aisle or the red side of the aisle? And in all sincerity, it doesn't matter what the bill looks like. It could be a good bill, could be a bad bill. Mm-hmm. But they take a look, they take a pulse of their district, and you'll find most of those folks are borderline right now. Mm-hmm. And so all you do is take a look at who's representing places like Madison County, Montgomery County, Jefferson County, Mobile County. I said, like, when you get into the rural counties, most of the representatives and senators that I have talked to are extremely conservative. They truly care about their constituents and that they represent, and they'll stand for them. I've known several of them who have voted against pieces of legislation that would go against what would be best for their district, and they just get chastised for it. But that's where you can draw the line. So take a look at the map, take a look at these 4 or 5 geographic areas, and in those 4 or 5 geographic areas, the ones that have an R in front of their name, you might want to question some of the things that they say or do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have quite a few of them. One that really I consider a patriot. He's not in office right now, and that's Tommy Haynes.
Yeah, I know Tommy.
Tommy's a good guy. As a matter of fact, there were so many times I thought, you're too good a guy to be in politics, Tommy.
He
may be running again.
I agree, Tommy. I ran into Tommy last year in Birmingham at the RNC, the Alabama RNC, and he sort of toyed around. I don't know whether he will. And Tommy's one that got himself in trouble. because again, he represented his constituents. When we start talking, we go back a few years for the gas tax. A lot of people don't realize that. I guess it was 6-7 years ago now when the gas tax was voted on. It was five Republican representatives who voted no. I think there was 1 or 2 senators who voted no. The 5 Republican senators who voted no, representatives, all very conservative, all very constitutional related. I know all 5 of them, wonderful men. And they were all told, don't even think about putting the bill in because it's not going to go anywhere. And so they got shut down at least for the 2 years after the gas tax was passed. And one of them basically, both of them, no, Tommy got defeated. I'm sorry about that. But I know 2 that retired. Both of them said they're just tired of, fighting it, So, but that's how you can tell. Mr. Haynes and I have talked many times in the past. I haven't seen him in a while. But there are some good ones in there. There really are. But sometimes money talks, as we say. And it talks too much. It talks too much, and it sometimes talks too often.
Well, even in Alabama politics, if you could be just dirt poor, and then win the election, and then go out being a millionaire in a couple of years, that's a little fishy to me because the salaries aren't that high.
No, $45,000, I think, for a representative. I think senators may make a little bit more than that. But here in Alabama, I think a representative makes $45,000. And the governor makes about $145,000, something along that line. Sad thing about it, though, Don, is there's some school board superintendents. I know in Montgomery is a prime example. He's not there anymore, but the superintendent from Montgomery made $245,000 a year.
That blows my mind. So your governor makes half. The governor's supposed to be the head, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the head. You the person. You the man. You the woman. Okay, and you make less than the school board. I mean, this makes absolutely no sense to me.
Well, I mean, even with this gentleman, he signed a 2-year contract. Not only was he making basically $250, and I think Mackey only makes like $235. And he's state superintendent. Yeah. He got a 6-month housing and they gave him a car. So not only to use, but fortunately he fell out of grace and had to retire, not retire, but he resigned. But thank goodness he did resign because he was just tearing the Montgomery County school system apart. But you have to wonder about that. How can a small town of 110,000 people, basically Montgomery, pay their school superintendent $250,000 and our governor doesn't make but about $145,000, $150,000? You wonder about that, but
that has to be investigated. It really does. Murray, we're going to have to call it a day.
All right.
Time flew by.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for being on the show with me. It's always fun to hang around, so I got to get you set up for next month.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But you know how it is. We'll both get busy and we'll forget about it.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you're going to be going, what did I do wrong, Donna? And I'll be going,
I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.
I do too. And I can't wait to be with you all again on the next show. Continue sending emails, Donna@donnasedge.com. That's Donna@donnasedge.com. Great to be with you, Murray. You hang around, okay?
Yes, ma'am.